What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Italian Football TV. We're doing a special podcast just to go over the Italian teams in Europe this week. There were some highs when we're speaking about Napoli and Inter, and there were some lows when we talk about Milan and Roma. Should we put in Lazio in that list? There's a lot that we're going to have to discuss, and we'll also preview the Serie A. I know, it's just Michael and I, but you're happy to be here. Are you?
Yeah, I mean, Antonio's not here busting our chops, so
it's kind of nice.
It's pretty good, all right? Yeah.
What was your? We'll start with Champions League. What was your biggest? Which game do you want to start with? What was your biggest taking away from?
Dude, that Napoli.
I can't even speak.
That Napoli thrashing was incredible. 6-1 against Ajax in Amsterdam. I mean, who would have expected that?
Largest defeat ever for Ajax.
Crazy.
You called that, by the way.
Crazy.
During the match, when they scored 6, you said this has to be their largest defeat ever. I thought you were crazy for saying that, and you were right.
I mean, Ajax has always been a huge historic team, so I don't think it's crazy that, this one against Napoli, they completely fell apart. Napoli are just so good in Europe, not just in Europe, in Serie A. They're doing it on all levels. Spalletti deserves so much praise. I think he's so underrated.
You know what's weird about this? And I don't think I ever would have said this. I obviously would never have predicted for it to be 6-1. But I'm not that surprised. And that kind of makes me feel pretty good. Like, the fact that I see the scoreline, I'm like, Napoli's playing that good that I knew they were going to win. I figured maybe it'll be 2-1, 3-1, something of that nature. And especially going down one goal, they're just firing on all fronts. They're the definition of what a team is supposed to be. Anguissa, we've been praising him as being one of the best center midfielders within Serie A. And I think now the rest of the world and the rest of Europe is starting to realize. I mean, Raspadori, what a few months this guy has had from the summer where he was playing at Sassuolo. He didn't know if this move was ever going to come to Napoli. Not only did he do amazing with the Italian national team, he's doing well with another Azzurri shirt, and that's the one of Napoli. Fantastic. One, a flying header, and then the second one, a first touch shot into the bottom right corner, scoring in the Champions League. And I almost have forgotten, and I feel bad saying it, I've almost forgotten about Osimhen because you got Raspadori and Simeone, and that's not even a dig at one. That's more of a compliment to the amount of depth and the way that the team was built at Napoli.
It is insane though, like scoring 6 goals without your star striker being there. I mean, that says on all levels over there. You take Raspadori off, you have Simeone who scores a goal. There's just levels of confidence in for Spalletti and Napoli that just oozing all around. And I just don't want this honeymoon phase to end, to be honest. I really hope this can last until the end of the season and they pull off something miraculous. Okay,
I was going to choose the Dybala one, but it's all right.
You said you have 4 that you're going to pick from.
I do.
So
Dybala was my top. Dybala was my top one.
Yeah, you should have not sold him at Juve. You should have not sold him at Juve.
It's not my fault. I didn't decide.
Yeah.
Go call Nedved. No one brings you closer to Serie A than OneFootball. You could see we've already been arguing these. We weren't even going to start the ad this way, but Michael chose the digital video moment that he wants. It was really the one that I wanted. We're fighting over the same moment. Go first, since you get to choose
maybe
this
I'll
weekend.
sell it to you, but I'm not going to sell it to you. But you guys could sell it if you want. If you click the link in the description, go to OneFootball, open packs. Marco, we're going to do a pack opening very soon.
Are we?
A lot of people are asking that we got to do it. So it's going to be a nice little surprise. We open a pack, check out which video mode we got. Maybe we could buy and sell. Maybe we could trade to each other. We'll see. Depends how we're feeling. We'll tell Antonio to jump in also maybe.
So which is the moment that we're arguing over that you're choosing that I wanted to pick?
So basically, hopefully, and I'm sure they will, OneFootball is going to soon get a new release of digital video moments, and it's going to be the beautiful golazo of Dybala against Inter to equalize.
That's one I wanted. Dybala.
Most people
but I got one that's even better for you because that one, Handanovic got his hands to it, a little bit of a mistake. That's a moment that you want. You want kind of a goalkeeping
Not
mistake.
my fault.
I am going to choose. This was perfect. Like chef kiss perfect. And that is Leao's chip against Empoli. It was 1-1. Milan. They came back. Balotelli scored. I don't want that one though. I want Leao because I love moments like that. I love when you're one-on-one with the goalkeeper, you don't just slot it into the bottom right or the bottom left. You go right over him. Leao has been the best player in Serie A. My favorite, unmarkable 1v1 sensational phenom. I said it in the podcast, bold, outline, all that stuff. Phenom, Rafael Leao. That's a moment that I want. And if you guys want some digital video moments from One Football, link is in the top of the description. Once again, no one brings you closer to Serie A than them.
And back to the podcast.
Let's go. There was a stat that I remember we tweeted it. I'll find it as I keep talking. Kvara, again, just dominating. The thing that impressed me the most about Kvara was not his usual performances, but we were screaming at one point because we were watching the game here with all the boys in the studio, and he was injured. Like, he was limping. And we're like, just take the guy out. I don't remember what the score was at the point. And he just like kind of muscled through it. He played this unbelievable 1-2 with, I think it was Raspadori, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I know.
And so intelligent to put his body in front of the defender, number one, so that either he's going to be in the position to score or he's going to get fouled, which either way, that's really good inside the box. He scores the goal and then he comes out. Like, he was injured. The man was literally injured.
His celebration was him limping.
It was fantastic. This was the tweet that we put up. Replaced Insigne with Kvara, replaced Koulibaly with Kim Min-jae, replaced Mertens with Raspadori. They're first in the Serie A. They're top of their Champions League group. They've got the most goals and shots in Serie A and the Champions League this season. Spalletti is doing an amazing job with this Napoli team. And I agree with you. I don't want this to end. They should have confidence in that they know the skill is there because they've done it against a team like Liverpool. They've done it against the top teams even in Serie A, Milan being a week ago or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. And I think that the one conversation that we always have, and one thing we love to do, we're very lucky. We live in Brooklyn, where we're always talking to a lot of Serie A fans, and especially Napoli, because Napoli is so well represented. So many people have history and their families and ancestors from Naples. And the one thing that we keep talking about with Ludo is that this year, maybe they don't have the battle scars of years past, of when they were so close with Sarri, with the 91 points where they lost to Juventus, and that group of Mertens and Insigne and Koulibaly, nothing against them, but when you keep losing, it kind of just feels like in the back of your mind, like something's going to go wrong. Maybe that's going to help them for the rest of the season. And I think that's the thing that I'm most hoping for. Can Napoli be the team that goes the furthest in the Champions League for the Italian teams? I really think so because of on paper. Can they win the Scudetto? It's the first time that I'm really believing so. And I think that maybe we're just getting caught up in the moment. But I feel like this year, besides the talent, because that's undeniable, I think that they will have this mentality to have a start on a new leaf. Do you think they're the team that will go the furthest in Champions League, considering the first 3 games that we've seen from all the Italian sides?
I mean, I think it'd be crazy to not think they would, considering the sample size you saw from them.
And how far?
Man, I mean, look, they didn't just beat Liverpool. They convincingly dismantled Liverpool, they're just beating all the teams in their path right now. And there's no question mark or objection be like, they got lucky or whatever. They're really steamrolling past these teams.
So how far can they go, Mike?
The thing with Champions League, it's always one of those unpredictable competitions because it depends the team that's in front of you. Because if you get Madrid in the next round or a team like Bayern Munich, it becomes very tough.
If you were looking into the future right now, where do you see this team capping off at? Do you see a quarterfinal, semifinal, final run?
I could see that. I could definitely 100%
Which one?
see
Which
that.
of the 3?
I could see
they're different levels.
I could see a semi.
Am I crazy for thinking the same thing?
I could see a semi.
Am I crazy?
No, bro, they're playing amazing.
I know.
I have a question though. Do you think Spalletti is the best Serie A manager right now? Because I've seen a lot of talk on social media saying this, and people are saying, no, it's like. So
I have 2 other names that I will throw in the mix just to toss it up. And I'll be honest, I think yes. My answer would be yes, he is the best just because of the style that he's playing and that he's doing it on both fronts. Obviously, I always resort to, I'm a sucker for the small guys, for the underdogs, and for the teams that get a lot out of a little. So my immediate mind goes to a guy like Sotil because of how good Udinese is doing. Basically, he had a team that finished so much lower last season, and just he came in and put the pieces together. So that's my kind of definition of what a really good coach is. So I lean towards that. And also Gasperini, because he's reinventing himself with this Atalanta side, and they're top of the table, and no one expected them to be there. But I will say it is long way to go around the story and say, yes, you have to give it to Spalletti at the moment.
Especially because he's not just doing it in one front.
100%.
He's doing it in Europe
and it's the
also.
style. The style is everything.
It's not a 1-goal win.
Yes.
He's winning by
I love
crazy amount of goals.
I love
it's
it.
so fun
The
to
pride
watch.
of Italy. Speaking
sure.
about pride of Italy, I was very excited when we'll go to Inter first. I was very excited watching this Inter play against the Barcelona. They needed this. Momentum-wise, everything was going down for them. Inzaghi had his back up against the wall. If they wanted a chance in this Champions League campaign, they needed to get a result because we know already what they did with Bayern Munich. And if we're looking forward, they're not going to beat Bayern Munich. They're not going to be this sort of Bayern Munich. They already had one versus Victoria Pilsen. And now that they have 6 points after 3 matches, and things look a lot better for them in the Champions League. Let's talk about the entire game because there's a controversy. There's a style of play. Let's focus on the pitch first. I was so happy for Di Marco. Like, I'm so happy for this kid who's another one, kind of like what I was saying about Raspadori, I feel like his life has changed within the last month, even for him, because he was playing this left center back role. He got trusted to play against England and Hungary in the left wing back role, which fits him so much better. People talk so bad about him. The man puts heart. Like, the man, when I watch him play, I feel so proud. Like, because he gives his all. And that's all you can ask for in a player. And the crosses that he provides, the energy that he brings to the team, the tackles, the positional awareness, the one-touch play even at times. Like, for me, he was doing everything right. And I know we could say De Vrij, you could say maybe Çalhanoğlu was amazing that game. But Di Marco really stepped up for me. Who was the other guy that you thought did amazing in this match?
Overall for this game, Di Marco was good. It's starting to feel like it's now more like some people are saying, just a couple of performances. But he's putting in a lot of shifts. He's running back. He's attacking. He's very tricky. He sends in great balls. And I think he really secured that left wing back spot and telling Inzaghi, listen, I'm not a center back. Play me where I belong to be playing.
What else impressed you from this Inter? What's your takeaway from this game?
So I think overall, the thing that impressed me for Inter is they're holding the ball for a good amount of times and having some decent opportunities for the most part, considering this Barcelona side, who, may not be the same side 5 years ago or whatever, but Xavi's building a very good side. Keeping players like Lewandowski completely quiet, who's been on
Lewandowski played?
Yeah,
no, I don't think he played.
Yes, he did.
No, I don't think he played.
What are you saying?
He's still in De Vrij's pocket.
I was like, he played.
Nobody wants to talk about that. De Vrij. De Vrij, who has not been great.
A lot of people have been criticizing De Vrij and Lewandowski, who's been doing great in La Liga, doing good in Barcelona. Inter really kept them at bay. It didn't let him do much. And the Hakan goal right before the half, beautiful shot to give them that motivation right before.
And he was playing in a different role. He was playing in the Brozovic role, which when I saw that going into the game, I said, of course, technically he has the ability to do that. But I thought maybe you would lack him in the advancement phase, like when you're going forward. I know you mentioned possession. I don't think you mean over the course of the match. You must mean just in pockets, because they got dominated throughout the match. First half I thought they did a lot better. Second half they did what they had to do to manage out the match, manage out the game. But I thought they had their chances, and I thought that they played a really courageous game where I was proud of the way Inter were playing. Do they have faults in their attack? Absolutely. And we saw that a couple of times. And, I was expecting a little bit more. In the last 30 meters, I still think that they're lacking that player.
They need
that
Lukaku
guy
back
I hope it's Lukaku that fixes the last 30 meters, because I still don't see that creative spark.
Lautaro needed a lot of help there. He was struggling by himself, trying to hold off the ball.
They were lucky he even played because he was injured.
Yeah.
They were lucky he even played.
It was hard for him to hold on the ball to really take any real chances of the half. So I hope when Lukaku does come back, it should be soon, he's going to help a lot in that build-up play, holding the ball more and laying the ball off more.
They kind of did better, though, when they were on their back foot. And maybe that's also what helped De Vrij, is that, one-on-one, let's be honest, De Vrij could get beat easy by a lot of these players.
For sure.
But when he had to sit back and he had to just manage the game and he's got everything in front of him,
he read the game,
I think that's what even helped Inter as a whole. They didn't have to take the game to Barcelona. They sat back, and I thought that they played such a smart game. I was not impressed with Barcelona.
They played very calculated.
What you were saying about, this Barcelona, I think they had no losses, right, in La Liga. They were on a roll in La Liga, not as much in Champions League. I was expecting this Barcelona to go crazy against Inter. I heard some of the predictions before the match. I saw even Fabrizio Romano said 3-1 for Barcelona. I think that's kind of the sentiment that a lot of people had. Peter, even before, he said, we need to come away with this. He Peter's line was, all right, even if we lose, we need a really good performance, right? And I think that was kind of the feeling amongst a lot of their fans. But they did the opposite for me, and they got this result, which was a tough result to get. And a Barcelona side that I see constantly crossing in the balls, yes, with a lot of possession, but they didn't create as much, in my opinion, for the way that I saw the game.
For sure, they didn't have a lot of opportunities, and I think the biggest winner for this Inter win, I think it has to be for Simone Inzaghi. It bought him a lot of time to beat a team like Barcelona and try to get them ready for Serie A and build off the 3 points over here, because he's been on the hot. I'd say he's been on the hot seat for a few weeks now.
All right, so the question that everyone cares about: who is a bigger meme between Inzaghi, Spalletti, and Allegri? All three of them are walking memes.
Allegri, I think so.
Allegri. Bro, Inzaghi's faces, every time I see his face, I can't help but laugh.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously referencing the wrong call where they were not awarded a penalty kick. Barcelona were not awarded a penalty kick after a handball from Dumfries. I know you go on Twitter and everyone's like saying that hit his head first. I don't see none of that. For me, that's a penalty.
Yeah,
the ball comes into the box. You could even tell that Dumfries knows that it hits his hand. We all were pretty much in agreement here. Listen, wrong call from the referee.
It happens.
Is it acceptable? No. You don't want to see it. But for me, the way that I say is like, that was such a focus for everyone, was just that.
Nothing
not talking
else.
about the
Yeah,
game,
exactly.
not talking about the
How Inter
performance,
played it,
not talking about how great some of the Inter players were, is it bad if I say it's the first? I never remember this going against Barcelona. So for me, it felt like, all right, one time it goes against Barcelona.
There's a little revenge for that Roma-Barcelona semifinal.
Well, they even, I know people were referencing the Sensi mistake in 2019 where it wasn't given a penalty kick. Penalty kick, in 2009, Conte's Inter. So no, I'll never, settle and say, oh, I'm happy that there's a bad mistake. But I am a little bit happy that Inter won the game. And listen, they made a wrong call. It's a wrong call. I would always say that they should get the right one. It happens. Luckily, it's for the Italian teams this time, because usually it's against it. And then we're raging on this podcast. That's the way that football goes. For me, Inter deserved it. Inter deserved to win. That's the way that I saw it. And I'm very happy they needed that.
Yeah.
Another team that needed a win, that got the win, was Juventus against Maccabi Haifa. In Torino, they have this back-to-back matches against them, which is kind of lucky. Like, they got lucky that they were playing Maccabi back to back in another coach that was maybe under more pressure than Simone Inzaghi. You could debate the two of them. And was it convincing? I wouldn't say so, because there were times where Maccabi were building into the match, and even after Juventus went up 2 goals, you still kind of felt scared because they brought the match. They allowed Maccabi to get back into the game.
Yeah.
But a couple good things. Number one, Angel Di Maria. I mean, the people that question Angel Di Maria, I'll see you later. You question, this guy is football. The guy's brain is 3 times faster than everyone else on the pitch. Almost always. Besides a few exceptions here and there, on the pitch there, he reads the game so well. The first assist to Rabiot is spectacular. I mean, the vision that he has. He had 3 assists on the night, and you could feel, you want to argue, were Juventus smart in relying on a 34, 35-year-old guy to be the man that creates? One argument. But if you want to argue that he's not the most important player, because there's no other player on Juventus capable of creating that final 20, 30 meters that has any creativity, you're crazy. Like, he is so important to what Juventus go on to do this season.
No, yeah, I have to agree with it. Right now, he's one of the only ones that make things happen. Cuadrado still tries when he can, and Chiesa still hurt, so he's obviously out. So a lot of the pressure of creating goal-scoring chances has to come from him. That's all the responsibility for him. But Juve kind of, they were struggling a bit. When it was 2-1 at a point, Maccabi were pressing, looked like they were going to equalize. Then thankfully, Juve got the 3rd goal and ended the game. But this was a huge, huge win for Juventus. And now they're going to play them again next week. So they're going to need another 3 points so they can hopefully qualify for the next round, because Benfica tied against PSG. So
I couldn't figure out if that was good or if it was bad. I know people are saying like
it's still kind of early to determine.
Now you could finish first, but for me, Juventus is not
tough.
fighting to get into first place. You're fighting to survive. I thought I was rooting for PSG to score the second.
I don't know if you saw the highlights, but Benfica, if they finished better, they had 2 or 3 other chances.
Gigio came up big in the highlights. I only saw highlights.
Donnarumma came off huge. He saved like 2 or 3 sure goals. So that could have very easily been a win for Benfica. So that group is still, I think, wide open.
Let's keep talking about Juventus though, because there's a couple other notes that I wanted to say. First one to begin with, Dusan Vlahovic needed a goal. He was desperate for a goal. The man is hungry. And I was so happy that he scored. I said it at the weekend already when he scored against Bologna. Now that he's getting these 2 back-to-back where people were already starting to criticize him, blah, 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 blah. When he's got a guy behind him that provides service to him, he is, for me, one of the best strikers in all of Europe. He is a killer. He is an absolute killer. And he is going to eat when he has Chiesa and Di Maria by his side and Pogba behind, because Pogba will also create. Again, you want to argue the strategy. Why are they relying on injury-prone players? One thing. But when Juventus really put it together, when they have those guys, for me, they are going to be deadly. And I'm happy that Vlahovic scored. He needed the goal. He deserved the goal. And anyone who doubts him is still, for me, it's absurd to look at him as any sort of an issue. Because I know people are saying he needs to do more for the team. For me, he's a striker. You know what he is. When you provide him the opportunities, he'll finish it off.
I mean, for the most part, it was fairly obvious. Even at Fiorentina, if you saw him, there's just some players that have it. And even if you don't realize it, someone like your dad realized it before you even started the season. In training, your dad realized it. But he's just one of those players that wants the ball. He foams with the mouth for the ball. He wants it whenever he can. And he's so efficient. With the least amount of chances, he makes the best. He's probably one of the most efficient strikers in Europe. Don't go behind it.
No, we had a stat. I think he was number 2 technically.
But dude, that's for a team like Juve that struggle to find chances under Allegri ball. That's extremely valuable for a team that's fighting for Champions League.
People will get pissed at this, but I'm gonna ask you: if you put Vlahovic in that Man City side instead of Haaland, how many goals do you think this guy would be scoring?
A lot. So many.
Like everyone would be talking about him.
Dude, Vlahovic scores with such little. Dude, if you give Vlahovic 5 balls, he's gonna score 4 of them. He's so efficient. He'll give him. He's just a killer. He's similar to Haaland in that sense, because Haaland
is above. Haaland is for sure above.
But I'm saying
for me, Vlahovic,
they're made from the same stuff, is what I mean.
But they're similar in that they're goal scorers.
Exactly.
They're prolific. They're prolific goal scorers, and
yeah.
they both like are big bodies and big frames.
Yeah.
I just think that Vlahovic kind of suffers more so from the 100%. Style that Juventus plays and the players that he has around him, whereas. I mean, I would never want to see him at Manchester City. Obviously, I'm not saying I would have wanted him there, but I did think about when I'm watching Manchester City and the chances that he had. I watched the highlights of the United Derby, the Manchester Derby, and then their game against the team from, was it Norway that they played? And I see the amount of balls that he gets from De Bruyne and from all the players around him, and I just kept thinking to myself, Vlahovic would kill for some of that. At Denmark, they would kill for some of that. So it came into my head. I still think Haaland is obviously above, because rightfully, look at how many goals he's scoring in Premier League. I think he had like 28 and 21 in Champions League, which is ridiculous. But I think Vlahovic has that sort of superstar ability to get to that level of being in the conversation with the top players in all of Europe. It's going to take some time. And honestly, I can't wait to see. We know Chiesa's training. They're saying him and Pogba the 25th of October. Does that mean 100%? Probably not. Do I think they're going to be starting? No. But it's going to be very exciting to see how this Juventus start to play when they get those guys back. And it's not an excuse against games like Monza, matches that they lost. It's not an excuse. Yeah. But I'm just saying, when we see the best Juventus, they're built pretty well.
And if you want to see how he'd score, just watch him at Fiorentina, because they played a more attacking style football, and he scored a bunch of goals. That's why Juve got him. So there's just another example.
Last guy, Rabiot, who did really great at his goal scoring ability. The first goal from Di Maria was brilliant as a rocket, and then the third goal, right? It was the third goal, the header. Yeah, Di Maria assist from the corner. Rabiot headed it in. Good job from him. And they need players to step up in the important moments. For me, still a lot of the times, like, he needs to focus. Like, Rabiot needs to focus. Like, at times he's a little bit lazy. He plays the ball backwards too much. He has the ability. And I think when everything works, he starts to play better. He's not the man that changes everything, but
he hustles, man.
He hustles.
He does a lot. He does a lot.
At times. I want to see it a little bit more consistently, but you got to give credit where it's due. And he came up big, scoring 2 goals for Juventus. But let's remember it. With all due respect to Maccabi Haifa, that's who you're playing. You need to see this, especially at the weekend against Milan, but you need to see this consistently as Champions League goes on, because Benfica is not a joke, as we've seen. Now, the third, we're 3 for 3.
Oh, boy.
But this was the game that, if you ask me any of them, this was the one I was most nervous for. Yeah. I wrote it in our group chat before because of the amount of players that Milan were missing. 3-0. 8 guys. 3-0. They lost to Chelsea. They didn't play good.
Dude.
They had no heart. They had no fight.
The thing is,
they didn't have any reaction. They had that. The one thing I wish is when they were 1-0 right before the halftime, Leao was sensational, where he dribbles past. I think at one point he had like 5 or 6 Chelsea players around him trying to defend him. He lays off to De Catalare, who, I mean, come on. In what world does he hit it directly at Kepa?
How about Krunic?
One corner. I'm going to get to Krunic. I'm starting with who hit the ball first. What world do you not score that goal? And then Krunic, this is, for me, that was the one bad thing, but Chelsea were phenomenal, and Milan had no reaction. They played bad. They played bad. They had no heart.
The thing is, maybe I don't know if the game maybe it would have been different if they got a goal and equalized, because you're going into the locker room, you have a different mentality, but you can't concede a goal like they did in the first goal. 3 straight set pieces on the mark.
It was embarrassing.
Dude.
Thiago Silva. How do you leave Thiago Silva open in a corner? How do you leave him open in corner kicks? It's Thiago Silva. He played for your team.
We could have defended better than that.
Have you ever watched yourself play?
That was
Did you see yourself last Sunday?
What do you mean? I scored like 4 goals. I did.
Against who? Against Antonio? Against my dad? But that's 65-year-olds.
You're marking me, bro.
Yeah.
And you play like semi-pro, no?
Go.
I'm like a professional if you think about it. But dude, not like 3 times in a row. Not like in the 15th minute, 30th minute, 80th. 3 times in a row. They were just asking for that. Like the champions you can't be defending like that.
But their set pieces are extremely poor. But honestly,
you can't concede like that.
Do you remember when we were watching the game, we were all sitting around, me, you, and Antonio were sitting there, and I said, the way Milan are going, because the first 20 minutes, Milan were playing great. Milan were on the front foot. They were controlling the ball. 20 minutes, no, they played really good. Obviously, it didn't continue, and it completely died out, so it doesn't matter. But the one thing I said, the set pieces, because you saw it before. They had a couple prior where they were not concentrated. For me, that's what it comes down to. The set piece that comes in, they were not concentrated on who they needed to mark and what was going on. Stupid foul prior to it that even led to the corner kick. Very stupid, the handball. But it was a bad game. There's no excuses. I don't think it's a fair representation because they're out without 8 players. And you take 8 players and 5 of which are starters. You take that many players away from any squad in Europe and they're going to struggle. Not an excuse, again, because the guys that were there needed to show more heart. They needed to have better ideas. But I think that I really would have I wanted to see the real Milan play in this match because I feel like they do usually have this courage. They have the players who could step up. They have a phenom. And I want to, you know what you like, underline in bold when you're writing?
Yeah.
Bold, underline, highlight, phenom in Rafael Leao, who one-on-one, try to name me a better player in the world that's better one-on-one than Leao, and you'll find maybe 1 or 2.
Kvara, baby.
Mbappe, the speed that he has on this one-on-one
he's good.
Is second to none. And I love he stops. You think nothing's going to happen. Bah! Goes right by you. The speed, the acceleration, the skill on the ball. When you have that, you need to take advantage of it a little bit more. Milan weren't able to. The great thing is that mentally I think they are strong to bounce back from this because they have a very important match at the weekend where they had that loss to Napoli. Now they have this. Now you're going into this third game. If you will lose this third one against, again, a direct opponent, That'll start to creep in into the back of your mind
for sure.
On the injuries, all this stuff.
If it's just a hiccup or not, or if it's something more.
Yeah. So this weekend, and we're gonna preview the game. This weekend is big. Is big for Milan.
The thing that was annoying to us, the English pundits afterwards saying all this nonsense about Milan. This was the champions of Italy. They got to do better than that, making it seem like as if they didn't already know half the team was injured already.
I don't think that they know.
This representation.
I don't think that they know.
Didn't that annoy you?
Yeah, but I'm used to it. We've been dealing with this. That's why we created IFTV. Look, something good came of that.
They made it seem like Liverpool didn't get smashed by Napoli.
Yeah.
Just not too long ago.
And who were the finalists in the Champions League? The only English team that was finalists.
That was a little annoying. That was ignorant.
They got spanked.
That was very ignorant.
They got spanked very good by Napoli. And whatever. But it is what it is. We know how it was. But it was a bad performance. It was. Do you read into it about the league and all this stuff? Let's see. Let's see who goes far. I still have confidence that Milan, it does get tricky. Their group is much more tricky than maybe we expected and how we want it to be. But I do feel still the confidence in the team to be able to bounce back.
For sure.
You're in London.
For sure.
It was a bad night. Move on. Teams in the Europa League. Roma lost 2-1 to Real Betis.
That was...
Even though Dybala scored 4 goals in his last 4 games. They lose at home at the Stadio Olimpico.
Dude, Betis came back from... First of all, the first goal that they scored, equalizer, outside the box. Oh, my, 30-yard rock. I thought he ripped the net on that. Yo, these La Liga teams, they're so tricky. A lot of people underrate them. But in Europe, they always step up. They always step up. They don't care who you're facing. They beat Manchester United in the final Villarreal, right? A couple of years...
They beat Juventus.
Was it Villarreal?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was, right?
Not Sevilla, right? No, it was Villarreal. It was Villarreal.
You sure?
Sevilla 1-2 in the past.
See, that's what these La Liga teams everyone sleeps
They're
on.
legit.
They have small technical Papu players. There's so many of them scattered around. They're very good. We knew Betis we knew there were no walkover. But the way it happened, they ended up scoring in the 88th minute. Spinazzola lost his man. He was still looking for the ball afterwards. It was like kind of a fluke goal that they conceded from a header, but it still went in.
Zaniolo was sent off.
Zaniolo was sent off. That was kind of a disaster. I was hoping it ended in a 1-1 just because it wasn't looking that good for Roma towards the end. But they ended up getting the L.
It's a problem with Roma. It's just like... this is more so a statement for the past, like, if you just summed up the past 6 years, like, you don't know what to expect with them because they'll put in such a great performance where they'll win big games, but then the opposite, the next game, they'll lack in concentration and they'll lack in consistency. The Europa League, I mean, to be said what this really means, because Italian teams, I personally feel like, and I'm not taking a dig at the players or the coaches or anything, I always feel like they don't take it as seriously, whether it's the amount of games that we have leading up now to the World Cup or just the lack of seriousness in the Europa League in general. I just constantly feel like we're just not as motivated. Is it thinking that we have too short of teams? Like we're not spending enough money on rosters where they could balance the teams out as much. Like we saw Lazio tie again to Sturm Graz. They're still in a good position. Roma's not as much in a good position in their table. But you hate to see it because, like you said, now this is where everyone starts to run with these conclusions of where the team's going to finish, where the league is at, all this BS.
It's crazy how quickly everything... And Immobile got a goal that was taken away, unfortunately.
He's been unlucky, Immobile. Immobile's been unlucky. He missed the pen too last week against Spezia, I think it was.
Yeah, he's
been unlucky. Yeah, I know. I have him as my Capo Canoniere. I have a bet on him being Capo Canoniere. For
your sake, they got to play Salernitana 10
week.
times in a row. So they can consider that.
But Spezia was supposed to be the one that he scores the goals against, and he missed the penalty.
I don't know. Oh, damn.
Yeah, same thing with these teams. I mean, Fiorentina, they won 3-0 in the Conference League
against Hearts.
I saw a
stat. They played hard, bro. No, okay.
You should just walk off now. Let me just finish the episode myself. Corny dad joke. That's an Antonio joke.
See you afterwards.
That's an Antonio joke. You've been hanging out with Anto too much.
Do you know where they're from, Hearts? Come on, give me a guess.
Scotland.
There we go. See, you knew. You knew. There we go. You gave it a hard time one.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
I saw a stat that Fiorentina hadn't won away in 6 months.
That's craziness.
Yeah. Finally they're winning in Europe as well.
And Jovic is scoring. So he's on the score sheet. Maybe He was good. He was good in Germany. No, I feel like maybe he'll spark something in him, because I think Fiorentina have been lacking a real goal scorer ever since selling Vlahovic.
It's not just you think; it's a fact.
Yeah, it is a fact. And now scoring 3, maybe that'll give them some for Serie A. Maybe wake them up a little bit. So I think this, I think this will help them.
I think this is a good competition for them. I think the Conference League, when I look at it on paper,
for sure,
it kind of fits where Fiorentina want to be, and just giving them a tease of what you can expect in Europe.
For sure. I mean, especially balancing 3 competitions, also being a first time back in 6-7 years. So this is good for them, good for their players, good for their fans, and good for the board, so they know the experience.
I pulled up the schedule for this weekend just so we can go over the games. Let's start with Milan Juve, because that's the biggest match.
Boy.
Great game. 2 historic clubs. This is always one of my favorite matchups as well. And what's so funny, what's so ironic to me, is that quote from Allegri from a couple weeks ago where he said, let's see how Milan struggle if they're missing 5 players. And he kind of getting his wish. There's a lot of Milan players that are going to be out for this game. They're, again, under this sort of pressure, which maybe we haven't seen in the past year. They haven't had this sort of, I feel like these string of results has not been good, especially with the players out. And I think any team normally and naturally would be lacking when you're missing such important key players. Whereas Juventus, and yes, you could say, look at the opponents they've played in Bologna and Maccabi, but I said it. This was a new Juve. After that break, I think you're seeing a new Juve. Allegri had said before the Bologna match, tomorrow starts our season, right? And then they went out and they did a great win. I really think this is where things start to click and where they start to get better. It's just a feeling that I have from Allegri and from the rest of the team, especially considering that they're on the verge of getting these players back. And I'm telling you, Saturday, if Juventus would get a win, it would be high motivation. Things would be flying for them. It's a huge opportunity in a one-off where things have been so negative for the entire year, and there's been so many doubts from Allegri that this will be a statement from him for the team, the champions of Italy, coming off of this string of results, that you can make a statement and start to tell everyone it's calm here. And I think that Allegri kind of lives for these moments. He lives for these one-offs where he's being doubted and he's able to make a comeback, and then he'll have joke in the press conference like, you see, it was only you guys that were nervous. I never was. So I do think it's leaning towards that.
This is a strange one. I was thinking about this game for a couple of days now, especially when Juve got that win against Maccabi and Milan losing. But I think Pioli and Milan, I think they're gonna brush off that European loss, and they're playing in Milano. They only have 1 loss this season. It's against the most informed team probably in the world, Napoli, and they still played a very good match against Napoli despite all their injuries. So I think we're still gonna see a very, very tough Milan side. And I don't think that loss against Chelsea is going to affect them too much. I think we're going to see a really strong Milan playing at home.
Forget about the result. How does the players being injured affect them more?
I don't think it's going to affect them that much.
Really?
I don't think we're going to see a performance like we did at Chelsea 100%. I think Pioli's going to be like, listen, guys, we're back in Serie A. This is our competition. We got to fight for what's ours. We're playing against a competitor here, competitor for the Scudetto, Juventus, in the San Siro. It's going to be rocking over there. They're not going to be away this time. And this is going to be a very tough match. I don't know which way it's going to end, to be honest. But if I had a guess, I think I'd have to give Milan the upper hand on this one. I'm not sure if they're going to win, but I think they're going to look like the better team.
I got a tie. I think it's going to be a tie. I think a tie will both sides will be happy. I don't know. I feel like Juventus is not going to lose this game. So I feel like it's going to be a tie.
San Siro?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to lose this game. There's just some moments that you feel like they're not going to. That's
so many times I counted out Milan, man.
Yeah,
I think I'm learning that, even though, like, I'm not counting that was a fluke against Chelsea. In the Serie A, they put up a fight, man.
Let's see. It's going to be a great match against
it's gonna be a really good match.
Very competitive.
I'll say a win.
Teams.
I'll say 2-1 Milan.
2-1 Milan. Okay, I'm going 1-1. Guys, anyway, that's the end of our podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you soon.
Ciao, guys.